Everyone, welcome to New Slang. This is episode number 75. I'm Thomas Mooney, your host. And on this week's episode, I am joined by Texas singer-songwriter Jonny Burke. A few weeks back, I was down around the Austin area and reached out to a few different friends who write songs. And Jonny was one of them. So I was fortunate enough to be able to go and hang out with him one evening. We sat in his living room for about 2 hours and just talked about music. I really love talking with just basically anyone I've had on this podcast. But a lot of times those are set up where, I've got 30 minutes to talk with somebody or, an hour or something like that. And sometimes it's just a lot more fun if we don't have like the cap on, There's no limit to how long we're talking. And so that's kind of like with this one. We just rolled for nearly 2 hours of conversation and just let it go where it goes. That's usually how a lot of these conversations are. But when you really don't have a time limit, you just kind of go until you just kind of finish talking. That's how this one was. So it was a lot of fun just to do that. I don't know. We talk a lot about a lot of things on here, about songwriting and writing with guys like Hayes Carl and Evan Felker of Turnpike. And we talk about just the way we digest music and why it's important to culture. And we talk about short stories with like Hemingway and some Joseph Campbell and stuff like that. I think it's a really, really interesting conversation. So I don't really want to just keep on rambling here. If you don't follow me on social media already, go ahead and do so. On Twitter, it is @_newslang. That's where you can be part of the open conversation about music when it comes to my thoughts, whatever. On Facebook, it's just New Slang. And anyways, I don't know. There's nothing really else I needed to say here. Here is the conversation with Jonny Burke.
Thomas, very good to see you. Thank you for coming over and, doing this, man.
Yeah, of course, yeah. Like I said, when I text you, I said I was going to be in the area for a little bit and was trying to get a few podcasts done.
Right.
Got a few earlier in the week and saw what you had your schedule going, so definitely wanted to stop by.
Well, I really appreciate it, man. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. Like I said, I've been with family, so it's been like one of those where you're like hanging out with family, but then you kind of just
one of those few days. Yeah.
Why did I come? I like on I guess it was Tuesday was when I did all those other ones, and James was like, "You gonna hang out a little bit after we finished up?" And I was like, "Nah, I probably should get back because just hanging out. I gotta go with family kind of stuff." And then I got there and they were arguing about nothing, and it was like,
as family tends to do.
Well, okay, should have just stayed over here.
Right.
What are you gonna do, huh?
Yeah, that's family.
My family always gets into arguments where it's like they're arguing a little bit today. It's can we stop here? And it's like, no, I don't. I can't go there or whatever.
Right.
Or like today they were gonna stop someplace and it was closed actually, and so then it was like, we'll stop at this next place, and it was like, no, I'm over it now. I don't want to go eat anymore.
Right.
And it's like, I had no control over the first place being closed.
Yeah.
And now you guys all want to like start bitching about not eating, and then my grandma just does the executive order of like, I'm getting something here.
Grandma still runs the family.
That's
It's the way it goes.
Usually how it is.
Yeah.
She's gonna listen to this because she listens to the podcast.
Oh man, that's amazing because I don't think most, like my parents are in their 70s. I don't think they know what podcasts are. But the fact that your grandma listens to your podcast,
Yeah.
shout out to Granny right now.
I'll go over to her house and she'll have it on. I'll be like, can you please turn this off?
She's got criticism.
She's like listening to it because she's like, she does like Charlie Crockett. So like he was on the pod
Right.
the other day and
Right.
she listened to that and she loves Turnpike and all those like bands like that. And she'll listen to all those podcasts. And
Right.
then she'll remind me of something that I've said, and I'll be like, "What are you talking about?" You know, and when you said it, you were talking to blah blah, and I'll be like, "Oh, I forgot about that." You know what I mean? So, yeah. So your parents are in their 70s?
Yeah. I was the youngest of 3 kids, and I grew up there outside of New Braunfels. And when I made the best decision I've ever made at 15 years old to quit playing football and become a guy. I want to say a songwriter, but more a guy that played at the local bar.
Yeah.
Was what I started doing at a very young age. And, I guess that means I was probably blessed by growing up in a town with a, 5A, football program that was always in contention for the state championship, because that meant for my size, there was no way I was ever going to star on the football team. And at that age, there had to be some way to get girls, and I found it at the local bar. I mean, at 15 years old, I was hanging out with 26-year-old female bartenders, and I thought, well, I've struck gold here, and I'm never turning back. And I guess I never did. It's
Yeah. Do you ever, obviously those songs, like you're not really playing, you're not going through those notebooks of songs, but do you still have those notebooks?
yeah,
Are they
I have
somewhere?
every single one since
Yeah.
I started writing songs. I have notebooks that are well over 17 years old
Yeah.
that I still like to look at.
Do you go through them?
Yeah, I'll go through them. At that point, I was probably more enthusiastic than I was talented, so it's usually not stuff that I use for new songs or anything.
Right. It's interesting how, when you first start out in anything, you kind of are just filled with piss and vinegar, right? And you just kind of, that carries you on until you learn how to do it,
At some point I learned humility, but at that point I did not have it. I was very much more, well, I can get through anything. And surprisingly enough, that attitude or bad attitude carried me through a lot of situations that looking back on now, I think, man, I wish I had the confidence of my 17-year-old self playing in bars.
Right. You just don't know any better at
exactly. You haven't learned the ways of the world, and
right. Because like whenever you do have like those moments of where you don't know, like you're not
the best thing on the
right,
planet.
Yeah. But like everyone else is kind of like,
hey.
Pump the brakes. I've already done this, and like you don't realize it. Those are the things like you at 30 or whatever, you're looking back and you're going like,
man,
God.
You had some big ones, man. Good for you back then.
Yeah.
I would never I would never have that attitude now showing up to a gig, I'm just these days I try to be the person who's humble and has gratitude, but it's fun to look back on that and go,
how is like your obviously the way you write a song changes, but how has your like I guess like output changed? Like since you were like 16 or even like 20, like I'm sure like were you writing at a higher clip, or do you still kind of keep it up?
There was much more output back then. I will say that. And there's this funny thing. I can't remember who was the great writer that I read this opinion piece on, but he was talking about like the great French poets or whoever, and saying everybody does their greatest work at 17 years old when it comes to poetry. And they're when he says that, he's talking about like Rimbaud and people like that who I think Rimbaud gave up poetry at 18 and moved to Africa to be an arms dealer. And I still read Rimbaud's A Season in Hell like religiously. I think it's one of the best pieces of written, poetry that's in existence. So that kind of stuck with me because I always think, I started this thing so young, and at points, it's been uninspiring, and at points it's been where I don't feel like I did at 17, going, I'm bulletproof and I can write anything. And
it's strange how like obviously I'm not a songwriter, but like there's been points in my life doing journalism that I felt like, fuck, no one's listening to me.
Right.
Like, should I just, or like maybe not enough people are listening to or care what I'm saying. So like, do I need to pivot to being an arms dealer in Africa, or no, not that, but do I need to pivot and go somewhere else?
Yeah.
And try something else, because it's crazy just how I don't know if that's just with age or with, you know what I mean? Like if you just feel like you plateau, or
I haven't figured it out yet. I guess it's just as you keep getting older, you deal with it, And I say I'm older. I was always the youngest guy,
right,
in whatever music scene I was in. All my friends were years older than me, and so for me to say these days now that I'm 33, it feels weird. Because all my friends were 33 when I was 20,
Yeah. You know what's weird too, though, is those friends that are like 33 when you're 20, they felt like, in a lot of ways, it doesn't, okay, let's say a 13-year difference.
Right.
In a lot of ways, they always felt like 5 years ahead of you.
Probably.
And because what I think of is like when I was 20, and if I knew people who were 33, who were like who I'd consider my friends, they felt like 5 years older than me. But if I just met like the average 33-year-old, it'd feel like a world of difference. That's, you know what I mean?
They had kids, and they had wives, and they had all kinds of stuff going on. And to this day, I still haven't had a wife or a kid or anything. I've just been, like I said, I just moved into this bachelor house a month ago, and it's kind of depressing to me. I don't.
The bachelor house. Yeah.
Yeah.
You said you've gone through different spurts of like just not being, I guess not having anything to write about, not having anything that has moved you. Is there moments is there like ever like that moment of like getting past that, or do you just generally kind of work your way through it, or is it always just kind of like a, that the proverbial, the idea of balloon above your head that just kind of gets you out of it?
I think it's fair to say, I heard Warren Zevon say in an interview once that, if you're a writer, you just keep doing it, and sometimes it's going to be better, and sometimes it's not going to be as good. But if you're a writer, you just keep doing it. And I've always felt, I think he even said, if you tried not to, you will still do it. And that stuck with me. There's definitely been various moments in my life where I feel uninspired, but I'm still writing, and it's probably not as good as if, some great moment where you go, man, that's it.
Yeah.
There are times in my life where it's easier for me to see other people who, like I can remember walking up on James McMurtry in 2006 or 7 in South Carolina somewhere, and he was writing the song Ruby and Carlos for his Just Us Kids record.
Mm-hmm.
To me, it almost, I mean, we'd been on tour for a few weeks, and I've toured with him he's kept me alive, my career alive pretty much, but I could just see the man, he looked like he was on fire, and that you did not want to touch him. He's sitting down in a green room, sitting Indian style, writing on a pad and pen. And when I found out later what he was writing at the time,
yeah,
I can remember Evan Felker calling me, going, I got this, it's going to be the basis for this song, but the line is, they all want to be Hank Williams, but they don't want to have to die. I mean,
yeah,
you know,
right.
Well, I want in on this right now. You know, let's do this. Feeling very inspired.
Yeah. I feel like that song in particular may be, in my opinion, like it may be like the best Turnpike song because it has just there's layers that you go through as far as
there are.
You know, where did y'all write that song? What was it like?
We wrote that over the phone.
Was it over the phone?
Yeah. He was driving down the back roads of Okema, and I'd just gotten done with some sort of probation class or something that I was doing, and I picked up the phone, and him and his fiance were riding around together, and I said, let's do this right now. And it didn't take very long, which is surprising for such a song I admire that I'm glad I was able to be a part of.
Because like that song has like those lines about if what is it, like the whole like if writing songs ain't in your cards, won't you find another game, like stuff like that. Like just it felt like, to me it felt like you guys were talking on many levels to different people at the same time, like the scene at large, musicians,
right. I mean, I
friends
think,
and fam, like you know what I mean.
Yeah, I think once me and Evan met, we had still to this day, I talk to him on a daily basis, and I'm in awe of his, songwriting prowess, and I think that's what attracted both of us to each other was that's what really counts. That's what matters. At the end of the day, it shouldn't be some sort of thing where it's like like just a scene or a place for people to show up and drink together. It should, like, the underlying thing should be that, man, these songs really matter and they have substance, and hopefully they matter to people.
Right.
Because they, when we finished that song, I was like, well, I'm high for like a month after that. You know, we did something great.
And, to me, like what's made the difference with Turnpike and a lot of other bands that we've seen the last decade and a half or whatever has been one, like obviously they write songs at a clip of that every song matters, but also I feel honestly whenever they started trying to do the connected universe, it made the idea of Turnpike into a bigger idea than just a collection of songs that lived in an area. There was like it became more of a map all of a sudden, a web that people started trying to connect all these songs to with, even though they didn't, obviously. Like you can't go back and say like, yeah, all 40 of these songs are connected to this one, nothing like that. But like it made it where people wanted to try and find those connections, and I don't know, I kind of felt like it was I've told him this, it's not the same thing, but I think for like this generation, it's like the modern American mythos in a way, because
Right.
I don't know if necessarily we're gonna think of these as the same way we think of like old traditional songs or anything, but for this era, it's gonna feel like that.
You've probably done your share of reading of Joseph Campbell.
Right. Yeah. That's one of the big things I was meaning with it,
And I still that's my favorite thing to do is give away the book of The Hero with 1,000 Faces to somebody that hasn't read it yet. I've got a copy of it upstairs that I go through and I underline every night, and then when somebody I know that I like that hasn't read it, I'll give it away and I'll buy another copy.
Yeah.
But that's me and Evan got very into. I gave him a copy of Joseph Campbell at one point, but our main thing was sharing Hemingway together. I mean, I think there was a number of years where we'd stay up late at night reading Hemingway passages to each other. And, I think there was even an ex-girlfriend I had who was concerned about it. You like to stay up talking to him and not being with me. There's very few people I've been closer to, and even the various handful of friends who came to visit me when I was locked up. Evan and RC were one of the first who showed up at 6 o'clock in the morning one time to visit me while I was locked up, and that I will never forget that. And like I said, he's one of my closest friends, and it's just it's always been a pleasure to have had known the various stages of their careers to be there for that, because it's an exciting thing to see such great songs get recognized.
Yeah. For like since I've known them, I feel like they've been my favorite band. You know what I mean? They've, to me, just like I said, like I feel like, and also just from a fan base, I think like, and I say this all the time to other musicians, like I think we consume songs at a differently than just the average person, and that's simply because we have more time to listen to songs.
Right.
If you've got 5 kids and you're having to go to football practice and soccer practice and all, and
you don't have as much time for it anymore.
It's like, you're listening to the radio and you're listening to that song once or whatever. But I think like the thing about Turnpike is you can listen to them on different levels in that way too. There's a reason why like there's diehard fans who pour over every line.
Right.
And then there's the ones who are filling the dance halls up and like singing along and just going just to get drunk. And it's fine either way, which is kind of a cool thing.
Yeah. It was good, moving about the time I started hanging out with all those guys. It was kind of later in their career. I just moved back from Los Angeles, and I'd been living there for almost 4 years. And I was living in the guest room of a great cinematographer, a great artist in his own right, named Rohir Stoffers, who, he shot, School of Rock.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, he is no lightweight. He's Dutch, though. And so I was out there, like I said, basically James McMurtry almost was keeping my career alive by letting me be his permanent opening act. And at the same time, I got to live in the guest house of my good friend Rohir. And, it was, that was something to do in your 20s. I'm glad I did it while I was, nobody was really asking where I went. It wasn't like I was making great strides in the regional country scene or whatever. And when I finally moved back, Evan, he reached out to me over Twitter, coincidentally. And, You know,
he used to have a Twitter.
Yeah, he used to do it years ago. And I guess we had met. I still don't remember this, but he swears to this day we met in like 2005 in the Stockyards in Fort Worth, and he was opening solo for my old band, the Dead Ringers, which I'd kind of after the Dead Ringers split up, we'd had some success over like AAA radio when we finally put out a record, and so that felt great. We would show up to like Minneapolis or Florida or whatever, and there'd be people. But you know, after that was done, I didn't really see myself being that kind of guy who's like a Texas country band leader.
Right.
You know, Ryan Bingham was living out in California, and I went and slept on his couch for a while. And after that, I moved into Rohir's couch, and like I said, James McMurtry just kind of kept my career alive, because every day I was in California, it's not like you can show up to a club there and make money like you do here on a night off or something. I mean, I went surfing every day, which was great. But I had a lot of adventures out there, and by the time meeting Evan and coming back to Texas was a big thing. It was like, hey, these guys are making great art.
Yeah.
And that's something to be recognized, because it's not something I just saw very often. Like, you're selling out venues, but you're also making great art.
Yeah. It's interesting, the whole, I think there for a while, like the Texas, Oklahoma, Red Dirt, whatever you want to call this regional music, like lost its way in like we're going to just try and sell beer ads basically.
Yeah.
And it really became a like, I guess like where you kind of get into a problem with that is everyone's just patting each other on the back, telling them, oh, you did a good job on this. I did you tell me.
Well, that was always the thing, you know. You never talk about what you think of somebody else's songs. You just say, well, he's just a really great guy.
Yeah.
And always being the youngest guy who, you know, grew up idolizing early Dylan and Towns and all these people, that was like sacrilege to me.
Yeah.
I did not adhere to that at all.
Yeah. What's interesting, I was just thinking about it right now, you saying the whole, he's a real good guy.
Yeah.
And then like, bringing up Towns or any of these old guys, I think like we always look back with like these rose-colored glasses of like these guys being really, really nice people.
Oh, they were just nice.
Yeah, and that's not really the case.
Like
I think if you knew like some of your quote-unquote heroes, you'd probably think they were all assholes.
These are motherfuckers.
Yeah.
They are. I mean, I've had to hear the stories from guys who were older than me who opened up for those guys. I mean, you talk to Robert Keane, he went on a tour with Guy Clark and Towns, and they just, like, I remember hearing a story that they like blew cocaine into a sound hole of his guitar as they were going across the border. Like, good luck, kid.
See, that's like,
yeah, like, wow, what a bunch of assholes, you know. And like, I'm not saying like that any of my heroes were great guys. I just know that when I'm putting on those records at the end of the night, that that's real art to me, and that's what I really admire. It doesn't. I would hope they would not be assholes, but
I think like when I think of the way they're assholes is like they like great friends probably, but like very, very hard.
Very hard on the younger.
Well, not only that, but like any kind of relationship, any kind of like parental kind of thing, or
any kind of authority, to have any kind of probably stuff that makes you good at being good in the music industry, which is good relationships. I mean, the definition of an alcoholic in the big books of Alcoholics Anonymous is your defective relations with your fellow human beings. And, Towns and Hank Williams being the perfect examples. They had just horrible relationships.
Right.
They were bad alcoholics. And
yeah. I know, like, there's that story. I don't know which wife with Towns or whatever, or it was long girlfriend or something, but I've always heard the whole, they're living together and for a couple, I guess, I don't know, couple months, and she just kind of thinks he can play some songs, and then like one day he packing up and she's like, "Where are you going?" "Oh, I'm going on tour." "Well, what? Like, what do you mean?" And he's like, I'm going on a tour. I got to go play some music. Where do you think all this money came from?
Right.
And that's kind of the deal. I don't know. But also, I was going to say is, I think those guys were, especially in song. I think it's easy if you're always the writer of the song, the point of view all coming from you. It's easy to, wipe away all your flaws. And a lot of times those guys didn't do that. They were just as harsh, or if not harder, on themselves. Than anyone. You know what I mean? And I think we've kind of lost some of that. In
I can see that. I certainly, I don't know. When I approach songs, I try to do my best to not see it from Johnny's point of view. I try to see it from some sort of third party that does not have personal feelings or opinions about the situation that they're writing about. And I always find the best songs I've ever gotten, I think, have come from that. I think it's very easy for anybody to pick up a guitar and go, I feel this way. Or
right.
I don't like this person, or I love this person, or it's something like I was talking about with James McMurtry being my mentor. Like, he approaches those songs from that kind of level. I always try to hold myself from that kind of, I'd like to have that point of view with every song I write. But then again, we were just talking about Hank Williams, and he did it best.
Yeah.
Just with raw human emotion going.
Yeah. I don't. Well, that's why he's in. Everyone wants to be Hank Williams. They don't want to have to die. That's why he's the example in that, right?
There was, my dad grew up playing in bars in the '60s and early '70s, and he never did it like it was a full-time thing. But he always told me this joke growing up that, when you get done playing a Hank Williams song in the bar, somebody says, "Play a Hank Williams song," and you just tell them, "Well, I just played one," and they say, "Well, play another one." And that was kind of, I remember that from being like 6 years old when we were playing gigs together for the Daughters of the Republic of Texas or whoever. And the next person who told me that joke was the first time I ever sat down with Willie Nelson, just me and him. He said the
same.
The only thing I could think to talk to him about was, I said, "Man, you played like 3 Hank Williams songs in a row tonight, and everybody was singing along. That's amazing." And he said, "Well, you know what they say when you play a Hank Williams song." And I realized, man, Dad, you did not come up with that joke. It's an old joke. That joke's been around since Hank Williams died, probably.
Yeah. That's funny. I always think about like those guys who like Hank Williams, where it's like, how hard is it being like Junior or like,
right?
You know what I mean?
Yeah. As much as we like to joke on whatever Hank Williams Jr.'s done with his career and his life, it's it's a lot to live up to.
It's not just him. It's like obviously like there's like Jacob Dylan and like,
yeah.
how are you Bob Dylan's son or
And I've
I
always
guess like some of his grandchildren are getting into music too now.
I've always respected Jacob Dylan's work too because I think he's very smart with everything and it's very good. But you go like, I mean, how do you even try to live up to that? Yeah, that was one thing I learned when I was locked up. The last unit I was on, the last 2 months I was locked up. That was the ice maker.
Oh, was it?
Anyway, the last 2 months I was locked up in TDCJ, which is Texas State Prison System. The GI, that's the first person to meet you when you get there, he's the gang investigator. He has to make sure you're not, and if you're a captain in the Aryan Brotherhood or something, you got to be isolated. This was very new to me after being locked up for so long. He knew who I was. He said, I know who you are. And there's a guitar on the unit.
Yeah. I was going to ask you, like, because I was assuming, like, they didn't just let you.
No.
Yeah, you couldn't just have, like,
no,
a guitar
everywhere
or
I'd
like
been
that.
since then,
Yeah.
it was very hardcore, strict. You weren't allowed things like that. And he said, I know who you are. I'm a big fan of the song you wrote with Jason Boland years back, And, of course, I listened to Turnpike Troubadours, and I saw your record before you got here. And there's a guitar on the unit. I'll make sure you got access to it.
Mm-hmm.
After that, I played a show every Friday afternoon when I was allowed access to the guitar for the dorm. 68 guys who live in a big room together.
Right.
In bunk beds. And like that got me through the rest of my time was the fact that the gang investigator on the TDC unit in Breckenridge, Texas, which I didn't even know there was a town called Breckenridge, Texas until I got there.
That's like in
like
east,
north of
west
Abilene.
Yeah. I was gonna say like around.
And yeah, man, that's kind of how I got through the end of last year.
Mm-hmm.
It was like,
were you writing every day in there, or like what do you?
I would write, but you had no time to yourself. Like, I just did some demos of most of the songs I wrote last year. I did them the other day in Austin, and I think 6 of the 9 songs that I demoed were all written when I was having to be transferred, and they put you in Huntsville for the better part of a week.
Mm-hmm.
And I was in Ad Seg, which they usually reserve for like murderers, but I was being transferred, so they put me in there by myself. And I remember having a guard brag to me about how he, like the most famous TDC prisoner is South Park Mexican. He's still in there, So he gets transferred around a lot. And this TDC guard is transferring me across the yard at 3 o'clock in the morning. I got my hands behind my back. He said, yeah, South Park Mexican came through here last week. I beat the shit out of him.
Yeah.
Okay, that's your thing you're bragging to me about.
Yeah.
But it was one. Yeah, it's one of those things. I could probably sit here and talk to you about it for 24 hours or so if you wanted to hear about it, but nobody really wants to hear about that. It's just no way to live. And,
yeah. Did you have access to like books? Were you able to get books?
Yeah, a lot of people sent me books, which was the best thing. besides that, I mean, there was a handful of people that came to visit me, a handful of people that I would talk to every week on the phone. But yeah, besides that, I learned to be very tough, and I'm not tough. I mean, come on.
That 5A football frame would have been handy.
I'm not tough. You learn to be very tough when you're actually not. And, I'm just, like I said, I'm glad to be done with it. It was no way to live. And
right.
Everybody always joked with me because I knew I was going in for 2 years before I ever went in. I'd gotten 2 DWIs when I was in my early 20s. And then in 2015 on Thanksgiving, I got a DWI at 11 in the morning where I'd been pulled over for a taillight being out. But I'd been up all night, and I shouldn't have been driving, and I'm very regretful of the whole thing. I don't, I'm the first one to tell you, like, don't ever drink and drive, but it was something I'd tried to avoid since I was in my early 20s. I never would leave the bar drinking and driving or whatever. But yeah, after that, for 2 years, I mean, having a felony, they have to convene a grand jury. They have to do the whole thing. I waited 2 years, and I put out that Along Alone All Right record. In fact, I recorded it a month after that incident happened. So it was kind of just waiting around for the hangman's noose to come and take you away. And once it happened, I'm glad. I'm glad I'm done with it. That's about all there is to say.
Yeah, I can't imagine. Yeah.
But like I said, there was a lot of support from very close friends, and I guess the thing I hated the most was leading up to it, kind of just being in fear that, hey, you have to go to prison, which sounds like the worst thing in the entire world, and it was. But casual acquaintances would say, well, at least you're going to write some good songs in there.
Oh.
And I go, man,
yeah.
I don't need to go to prison to write good songs, man. I can write some good songs.
I've heard all too often when people, not even just going to jail or something, but like, oh, he's yada yada is like getting a divorce. Well, at least he's gonna write, and it's like,
right,
dude, that's somebody's life at the same time. Like, maybe like pump the brakes on. Like, I don't know.
The worst thing was, like I said, I had no time to myself except the times I was in AdSeg in Huntsville, Texas, to write actual songs.
Mm-hmm.
And they were exactly right. I mean, it was very easy to come up with some songs about your experience in there.
Yeah.
So, fuck them.
Well, you said you went and demoed some of those songs earlier?
Yeah. I like I was saying, this year I've just the only gigs I've taken have been, I haven't searched out a gig since I've gotten released. I've just said whatever happens for my career musically, I want it to be real.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to be, pulling some bullshit music industry card where you go up and show up and take some money from some venue that just opened up and you're playing there with a band. It's basically all my friends that have called me for gigs. And what I told myself when I got out was if there's a place for me, there will be a place for me. If not, you know, it just has to be real. And so I'm very grateful that it's kept me busy this year, playing a lot of friends' venues that are just great.
Mm-hmm.
And so we'll see where it goes from there. I've not had a lack of friends calling about wanting to write. And, so.
Yeah. How often did you co-write before? Obviously, like I know like the Turnpike stuff, but you said bowling.
Yeah.
What other? I don't even know if I've
Me
listened to.
me and Hayes Carl wrote a bunch of songs together that I'm pretty proud of. There's one he included on his 2008 album. It's called "Don't Let Me Fall."
Oh yeah.
And I was always proud of that. And there was a few songs that we co-wrote that I put on my records. Besides that, I mean, if somebody wasn't my very close friend, I was never,
Right.
I was never that guy that go, hey, let's keep a schedule, and at 1 o'clock tomorrow morning or tomorrow afternoon, I'm gonna show up and sit in a conference room and write a song with somebody I don't know. That doesn't really sound like a recipe for good art for me. I know it's worked for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I've tried to be more open to that. This year, I've been writing with a lot of people, but usually, again, it's just my close friends,
Right?
People who if we go, hey, this verse isn't working out, and we go step up back for a minute, then it's just shooting the shit,
Right.
being friends.
Yeah, I think like I mean, obviously, it works for some people of doing I've got 5 writes this week. They're all at 1 o'clock and meeting somewhere and just trying to get a song out in 3 hours. There's something to it for those people who are able to do that. But also, like, sometimes it feels like I guess with some people it can feel like putting a square peg in a round hole. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel like maybe you have to be more, I hate to say you have to be more organized that way, but like you have to probably write down your ideas.
You
usually
have that side of the brain that
that you're able to bring.
I'm not normally as good at.
Yeah.
I think it's the other side of the brain that brings about the great
Right.
stuff, the gold that you want to dig down into.
Mm-hmm.
So usually I'm not so judgmental on something like that, but I just, if I walk away from a song and I go, man, that was really something special that we did. It's usually been with a friend that I'm very close to, and we've dug down in that mind to figure out what we can do with something that we analyze it every single way. And,
well, how often does it where you do finish that song? What's usually the period after where it becomes like the quote unquote final version? Is there usually like where you guys are exchanging emails or texts or working on, like, I guess maybe, we should take this line out and change it to this?
Yeah,
is there that period?
That's a great question, because there have been times where it's immediate, where both, like, me and the person I've written with have started covering it right away.
Mm-hmm.
Or not covering, but, playing it live. And there's other times where people have waited well over a year or two to delve into it, and waited to see what a producer said and all that kind of business. And I guess I don't really have a good answer for that. It's a great question. I mean,
Let's just go with like a specific song then. Like whenever you and Evan were doing Long Drive Home,
That was pretty immediate. I mean, the version that we wrote that night is the version that you hear. That was, he had that line. He already had the first and third verses. I think we worked on the second verse, and I came up with the fourth verse, and that's to the best of my memory. I might be off on that, but like the version you hear them recorded is that night that we came up with it. And I always love hearing that song. It's just a great song. Then again, on that same album, like that long drive home was the.
Didn't y'all do like Down Here?
Down Here, that's what I'm trying to say. My bad. There's so many good ones, but
how'd that song come up?
That actually started from an idea from our friend Kyle Wieters, who is he's Randy Rogers' tour manager, but I know him just as one of my oldest, closest friends, and he had one of the lines in the chorus that he had told Evan about a year or so before, and then Evan worked on it for a while, and then me and Evan worked on it, and it took a long while. It wasn't until I heard the recorded version that I was like, oh yeah, there's that song that we've been working on. So it's very different.
That's interesting because I feel like usually when the two parties leave, you think of it being done, but I feel like it's just like more of a sketch outline of it being done. Then like maybe the one party just doesn't know until it gets finished what the final version is, or because I think like we always think of everything being so neat, right? Like where you that song,
the I's
and then
are
like
dotted and the T's are crossed, and it's
you both sign your name at the bottom of the lyric sheet and it's finished, or you know what I mean? And but it's not usually.
We both did. Speaking of Turnpike, we both did such different versions of that song, "Old Time Feeling Like Before,"
right?
Which was a very personal song for me, and I'd had part of it already, and then I showed it to RC and Evan, and Evan just had all these great lines that he had been storing up for whenever this kind of song comes around. He was ready to use it. And the versions we have are both so different because it's a very personal song for me, being about an ex-girlfriend, but their version is so great too. And the same thing for that album we're talking about now, that Pipe Bomb Dream was it was just a song me and RC had been working on for the better part of a year, and I didn't even know it. Evan went and took it and wrote a bunch more stuff on it when they were getting close to going in the studio. So that's another one. The first time I heard it was the recorded version, and I thought, man, these tones on this drums and these guitars, everything sounds great. I couldn't believe that just a few months before it was just a song me and RC had been, thrown around.
Such a great image of that Pipe Bomb Dream, and like kind of like it's. I'm assuming it's kind of like the play off of like Spanish Pipe Bomb or Pipe Dream, kind of like in the title.
Kind of, yeah. I could see that
imagery of like a pipe dream and a pipe bomb.
Yeah,
dream.
That was all Evan's doing. The actual Pipe Bomb Dream reference. I always thought of Spanish Bombs, the Clash song, which is one of
the old Clash, man.
The only band that mattered, as they say. If you run into those old sound guys who are old punk rockers at heart, they go, the Clash, the only band that mattered.
It's crazy. It's like Joe Ely opening for the Clash on tour.
I've heard those stories time and again, and it's just one of the many reasons that I think Joe Ely is the coolest person I've ever met.
Mm-hmm.
Joe Ely and Ian McLaughlin, coolest people I've ever met, hands down, bar none, no contest whatsoever.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, it's crazy. What I think like the best thing about Joe's music has been that I think so early on it was all about the guitar, right?
Yeah. He always had the best players with him.
Yeah. And I think we can all agree, like sometimes if you're like the old guy, quote unquote, with just trying to play rock and guitar, it can kind of come off cheesy. But he's somehow transitioned into having a different kind of cool guitar. Like he had that record Panhandle Rambler.
Yeah.
And that's all like deserty guitars and, Spanish or like spaghetti western kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like cool guitar, but a different kind of cool guitar.
Definitely. And I can't remember who played guitar on that record.
On the new one?
On the Panhandle Rambler that you're talking about.
I thought it was a couple guys. I don't know, though.
I mean, he always had David Holt as one of his long-term guys, but David Grissom. I mean, most guitar players that came up around Texas that I talked to, it's either David Grissom or Charlie Sexton that they talk about.
Yeah.
And those are the guys. But then, he had Bobby Keys in the fucking band. He's always had a great band that he's carried.
Right.
And the great songs and just being the coolest.
Yeah. The thing with like Bobby Keys, I never met Bobby Keys or anything like that, but there's like those passages about how he was the bad influence on Keith Richards. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Imagine that. There's that whole story of the bathtub full of Dom Perignon.
Yeah, of course. That's I watched that documentary not too long ago. What's that called? Every Night's a Saturday Night.
Yeah.
And it's got great interviews with everybody. Ian McLaughlin's in it. But I kind of got to know him just because I had a former booking agent Davis McClarty, the original drummer in the Joe Ely band, and still plays with him. Davis is a great guy, but that's how I got to meet Bobby Keys in the short term, and all those guys that were in James McMurtry's band over the years. Like there's a friend of mine, Ronnie, Ronnie Johnson played bass for James McMurtry for over 20 years, and he played in Ronnie Lane's band when Ronnie Lane moved to Texas in the 80s. And Bobby Keys was in that band as well. And so Ronnie, now he's in his 60s, but at the time he was a very young guy. And, he said, yeah, there's Bobby Keys with his buck knife going, you want some cocaine, Ronnie? It's like, man, these guys were operating on a different level.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you, I guess there's like the one Stones documentary that's just about making exile.
Yeah.
In the south of France.
That HBO documentary.
And,
that's pretty good.
I guess like they were recording all that in the basement.
Basement of Keith's house. Yeah, Nicolette.
I think what's crazy too is like it's one of those things I don't think you think about until they show you all that kind of stuff where it's like, yeah, it's hot, but like just having all the equipment down there probably
the heat burning off the amps is alone in that small amount of space.
Yeah, and there's all the footage, and obviously there's photos too of like Bobby Keys just playing in his underwear because it's so damn hot. Because what do you? And of course, just
I mean, it's an amazing thing because that that record is such a I don't know. I'm sure the mythology of it has something to do with it, but just the fact that it's the greatest rock and roll record ever made, besides something by Chuck Berry or I mean,
you
the
prefer
Beatles
Exile?
Revolve. Well, I mean, I shouldn't say something is the best. I just it's.
No, I get what you're saying. It's iconic.
It's been the soundtrack to enough of my life that I have spent many nights staying up with ex-band members and girlfriends and stuff listening to that record, going, man, this is just the best. It's an odd thing because, like I said, there is that mythology to it.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think stuff should just be worshipped because of mythology. I mean, you could go worship Kiss for mythology.
Right.
People are worshiping Queen right now for the mythology of it.
Go ahead.
Every one of those bands, that's it's the rock and roll mythology. But I made my first solo album. With Mark Ford producing it, going, man, I'm trying not to do a Texas thing. I'm trying to be, leading a rock and roll band at the time. I only played electric guitar at the time. I didn't play acoustic guitar live. I'm just like, that's all that matters to me, And the fact that you give enough of your life to something like that and go, man. I don't think of it like I think of Kiss or Queen or something like that.
Right. Kiss is such a different animal, I feel.
Yeah.
Not pun intended, because I guess like there's Animal. They got a record called Animal.
Yeah.
But that to me almost feels like there's too much merchandise with Kiss.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I mean, they got the action figures that are
lunch boxes and all kinds of fun. You don't have like I'm sure you can find like a comforter set of Rolling Stones or whoever, but like Kiss is like the thing, like there's everything with Kiss.
Yeah,
it became about merchandise.
Yeah.
So I don't even, Kiss is not like I would never put Kiss on and like listen to it. I'll go and put other records like some Stones on, or like you just mentioned Revolver. Revolver's great.
That was rock and roll became an art form with that one single album.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, it went from a one-dimensional kind of songwriting to, after that.
Yeah. I feel like, obviously, the whole Rolling Stones deal, Exile. My favorite's still like Sticky Fingers. It's just like, I feel like that's like the perfect record.
You're probably right. I mean, Exile is not a perfect record by any means. Sticky Fingers, every song on it.
Yeah.
And it's succinct, and it's got a thematic element to it.
Yeah. I love Some Girls, too. I know, like, Some Girls is kind of like, some people don't.
People might go,
yeah.
Ian McLagan played on
Some Girls.
Yeah.
Dude, that's like 77.
Yeah.
To me, that's like the breaking point of like Stones being great.
He's the organ in Miss You.
Yeah. Man, it's a great record.
Yeah. With Mick is even playing electric guitar on that.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Which is why the electric guitar isn't that good, but it's like it's post-punk rock, so it's got that feel.
Whenever thinking about records before, it's one of those, okay, I think whenever you think about music from now, you can kind of place yourself at like, okay, whatever came out in 2010, and you kind of know where you were.
Yeah.
But like before you started listening to music, you had like, when you're trying to like consume all the music at once, basically, it's hard to like just put all those in perspective. You lost the perspective because we got all the Rolling Stones records at once, basically.
Yeah.
Access, especially today with Spotify. So that like there's not a difference between, or it's hard to find that difference between Some Girls and Sticky Fingers, even though it's, you know, a long time
15
between.
years apart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same thing with the Beatles, or like, or even just
Not
like
15 years, but
putting
10 years apart.
Yeah, putting like even just like with other people, like other bands together. Like let's just say, like 77 for example, the whole Some Girls came out. Like that's when Rumors by Fleetwood Mac came out.
Right.
You know, and that's also like whenever, like the Stooges were getting started, and you know what I mean. Like,
Well, the Stooges' first album came out in '73.
Okay, well, you know what I'm saying though, right?
Yeah.
Like there's other bands having an effect on the ecosystem of music.
All of a sudden, the Stones have to sound dangerous again. And
Yeah.
the only way to do that is go, hey, punk rock has already made the scene.
Yeah.
Disco has already made the scene. Both of those elements were included on that album.
Disco had such an interesting impact on music, like in that era, because then you saw all these bands trying to do like a disco song or a disc.
I mean, Miss You, was it? It has a disco
Right,
bass
yeah.
line.
Well, not only that, though, like not even just in like in rock and roll. Go listen to like those old Waylon records.
Oh yeah, and it all comes in through the bass line too. I mean, it's got that working bass line where that's how you start out with a disco track.
Yeah.
And I mean, you can't really blame him for it because I don't think it all was bad.
Right.
You know, some of it was really good. I
Yeah.
think Blondie was a great band. I think.
Blondie's was great.
A ton of those people who morphed into post-punk, whatever kind of bands, but they dabbled in that.
Yeah.
You know, they had their hit songs were disco tracks that had that bass
Right.
line.
Well, like a band like Chic, like Nile Rodgers, like
No, Roger, yeah,
that dude is
fucking genius.
yeah. Everyone, whenever like Daft Punk put that last record, and he's like playing guitar on it, they're like, wait, who's this guy? Like I recognize Pharrell Williams singing, but like who's the guy playing guitar? It's like, oh, here's a link. Go listen to all this stuff.
Then even the Bee Gees, who are the most well-known
Right.
of the disco bands, just because of Saturday Night Fever, but they, they had written some of probably the greatest songs of the decade before that thing even happened. I mean, To Love Somebody.
Right.
Have you ever?
That is a great song. Yeah.
Have you ever heard Nina Simone sing To Love Somebody?
I've not heard her. I've heard like Graham Parsons.
Graham Parsons. I mean, there's a ton of amazing,
Yeah.
Your favorite deep track artists who go, that's a great song we got to do.
Right. I gotta say, like of the, like Nina Simone, like there's some of her stuff that, like when she covers a song, it rivals. In a lot of times, it's like even better than the original. But like a lot of times, you've not heard her version of it just because.
Like Blackbird by the Beatles.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's. I'd be hard pressed to be like, yeah, the Beatles did it better because I think it's.
What I'm thinking of too is like she does like Cohen's Suzanne.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you talk about. I mean, I haven't mentioned him yet, but I mean the songwriter in the books who's, there's a few of them.
Yeah.
And he's one of them.
Yeah.
And hearing that beautiful, beautiful black woman doing a cover of one of his songs is it's as good as it gets, I think.
Right.
I mean, you've got the best of both worlds of the most soulful artist doing a cover of one of the most soulful songwriters.
You a big Cohen fan?
Yeah. Susan takes me down. sometimes if it's late in the night and no one's listening at a gig, I'll just lower my voice to that level and see if anybody notices. Nobody ever does, but it's
right. Those songs are always, because obviously like he comes from that poet background.
Yeah.
And I was talking with Rod about this earlier, about how, because he dabbled in some Scientology stuff.
Okay.
And there's some references in songs that like in Famous Blue Raincoat, he mentions going clear.
Did you ever
go clear?
I mean, that's the end of the chorus.
Yeah.
And he's not just.
Yeah. And that's a reference to. And there's a few other ones that are, I can't think off the top of my head, but like that one's like the.
It's funny because I've looked that up before, and that was what the internet told me, that it was about Scientology. I always thought it was about suicide. Which, I mean, doesn't make sense from the reference that he's talking about. But the first time I just heard it, I thought that some guy living out in the desert that was about to commit suicide. That guess I'm wrong about it. Yeah.
Do you have a favorite? Or like an
Famous
album
Blue Raincoat is one of my favorites. I gotta say, it's amazing that you said that.
Yeah.
But no, I think Tower of Song is my favorite because the humor is. That was one thing. Being locked up last year, the songs I wrote were not as serious as they had been in the past, because there was only one way to deal with that situation, and it was humor, albeit dark humor. But I love that sense of humor that he has in the Tower of Song.
Right.
And I'm sure he probably wrote 100 verses to that song and just nailed it down to 8 or 9 or whatever it is. But it's hilarious.
Right.
At the same time, you feel for him,
Right. It's interesting the whole the idea of him writing all these verses for a song, and then just taking 9 of them or whatever. Because there's like the story of like with Hallelujah, kind of the same thing. Of like it not being a perfect song.
There's supposed to be a ton of verses to, one of the most covered songs.
Yeah. I think like the same kind of situation with Desolation Row by Dylan. There's the lost verses, of that somewhere out there.
See, I think you're off in that one, because there's probably like 13 verses to Desolation Row. I think he only wrote 12 of them.
I thought there was like other ones that he had switched out.
I was just making a joke.
Oh, okay. I was like,
with early Dylan, what we were talking about earlier. That's really what I think of my early laying in bed at 16 years old and being stoned and just being blown away, going, man, this is it. It's all over now, baby blue. All those B-sides to Bringing It All Back Home and Highway 61 Revisited, and not Blonde on Blonde so much, but like Another Side of Bob Dylan was a huge one as well. Like those, not the first records, but like as he was transitioning to.
Like the quote, like in quote, post like going electric in a way.
Right. Yeah. Like he had
in that kind of turn.
He hadn't gone electric yet when he released Bringing It All Back Home. He hadn't been playing live like that, but
kind of like in that.
Johnny's in the basement mixing up the medicine. I'm on the pavement thinking about the government. That sounded like a country song to me. That didn't sound like a rock and roll song. And it sounded more like Chuck Berry songs that I had heard as a little kid.
See, like again, he's like one of those guys who you're kind of just giving all the Dylan at once, and then you start trying to figure out like, oh, well, because in a lot of ways you kind of get like
one that came out in the 70s that I don't get automatically.
Yeah.
You know, what's New Morning?
Because you're given like the quote unquote like a greatest hits basically.
Yeah.
Without like, hey, there's space between.
How do you deal with Knocked Out Loaded? You know,
Right.
if you're still trying to comprehend what.
It's almost better to just start from the beginning.
Yeah.
And then kind of work at the same, not necessarily the same pace, but you know what I mean? Like, because it's. There's a thing to like thinking about Blonde on Blonde and Blood on the Tracks being 10 years apart. You know what I mean? And a lot of people always say, you know, those are if there's two great records, obviously like they're in like that top 5. Like people are going to mention.
A lot of people will put those 2 records in their top 5, and I would probably do the same as well.
You know, like bringing it up all back home, like that Highway Revisited, right? Those are all like great records, but especially those are like mid 60s, early 60s. And then like there's a lot of the other great, quote unquote, great records are mid to late 70s. And it's like there's so much time that passes through, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's crazy. Because I feel like you can, obviously, like he's like one of these guys who, more than anyone else in a lot of ways, has had 7 careers in one.
Reincarnation time after time.
Right.
And, you know, it's, I guess it's kind of one of the, like, I always remember that. Like, I mean, Bob Dylan's a superstar. He's been a superstar since the mid-'60s. He's not like my folk singing heroes. He's not like Guy Clark or Townes, who the guy you saw was basically the guy.
Right.
Maybe they were putting on a little bit of an air of a part or something.
Right.
That's always what I've aspired to be. I'd never wanted to be I mean, he was a pop culture icon many times over.
Right.
So I don't know. I've always liked the guy. I've always or the girl, you know. Like Emmylou Harris, I've always thought it comes from a very, I hate the word authentic, but like what you're listening to is the stuff that she loves to sing. Right. And you know, that's always been my goal. I've as much as songwriting is this vast landscape that you get to explore, and you got a very broad canvas. It's probably the one thing, again, that I hate that people would bring up about getting locked up. Well, you're going to write songs about being locked up. It did give me one specific landscape to write about. But I think, you know, my favorite thing about it is it's a huge, you know, the portrait that you're able to paint on is vast in the world of writing a song. And, you know, the people that I've always admired that can do it well, I'm still just in awe of. And, you know, that's what really matters to me.
Right. It's almost like a lot of people are kind of saying, like, now that you're in this situation, this is the box you get to color in.
Yeah,
you know?
Here's your sandbox to go, you know, play in for a year, and we'll see you after that.
Yeah.
And I'm just thinking of that artistically. Obviously, I was dealing with something different on the actual physical side of having to be there. But I'm not really talking about me so much, just as in, I don't know, talking about Dylan. He's certainly, it's great to look at somebody who has written so many great songs in so many different forms. And, you know, no matter stylistically, thematically, when you come back to it, they're always great songs, and it's usually just a great band that's playing music very originally.
Yeah.
Like in a way that you haven't heard before. Even if it traces its roots back to somewhere very deep, it's still, the guy I was telling you about that I lived in his guest house in L.A., Rohir, he shot. Did you ever see Masked and Anonymous?
I guess not. No, I don't think so.
It was a movie that he wrote that came out. Bob Dylan wrote the movie and did all the music for it. And it came out in like 2001, I think. But it's in this post-apocalyptic world, and it's got the most cameos you've ever seen. I mean, it's like Jeff Bridges, Penelope Cruz, Cheech Marin. I mean, I could go on. It's all
right,
all cameos, and Bob Dylan is like pretty much plays himself like this kind of jaded guy who gets let out of prison to play some benefit concert for this post-apocalyptic world. And my friend Rohir shot the movie, and I talked to Charlie Sexton later about it, who was kind of like the band leader for. It was Bob Dylan's band that played in the movie, and he was like, "Yeah, it was just, man, I can't believe Rohir that you live with him, because there was one day where we just showed up and Bob Dylan just said, 'Yeah, we're gonna play Dixie.'" And I was like, "What the fuck you mean? Like Dixie, like the old song from the South? Like, yeah, that's gonna be the scene for today that we do." And Charlie Sexton, teaches Bob Dylan's band to play Dixie, and they go and do it, and Rohir shoots it. And that was the picture that I had in my room living in Los Angeles. Was Rohir was setting up lighting for a shoot one day, and Rohir said, "Yeah, Bob Dylan would just make up songs on the spot." He goes, "Rohir's setting up the lighting for the day we're gonna shoot a show today."
That sounds like the most amazing thing, but also at the same time, like
odd. Yeah.
Okay, Bob. Yeah.
But if you ever get a chance, Masked and Anonymous, I actually like the movie.
Yeah.
I mean, it's.
I'm about to check it out. Yeah.
It's very good.
That's funny though. Him just like.
Yeah, that was Rohir's take from it, because he grew up in the Netherlands, so he wasn't like a Bob Dylan fan like I was. He was just relaying me the stories of that's what that guy was like. And then obviously
the Bob
his band leader as well, Charlie Sexton, saying like, "Yeah, man, it was just a fucking weird experience."
Yeah.
You just show up and he's weird.
Yeah. I come across like I think it was something like Todd Snyder wrote this, like, I guess an essay about Bob Dylan, and I was interviewing Todd, and I brought it up. We talked about Dylan for a while about it, where I guess like the essay was about the idea of meeting Bob Dylan, and like the whole like don't meet your idol kind of thing, right? Don't meet your heroes, and how he had never met Bob Dylan and never really had the chance to, but like he didn't want to do it in a like, a setup kind of way. Right. And he said like he had talked with different friends, people who he knew who had met Dylan.
Who knew Dylan, yeah.
Or no, just had met Dylan or like thought about meeting Dylan, and how like not like even like knew him in any kind of way, but just kind of like met him on the street or something like that, and how it was really always just real awkward. And like there's a couple of different examples of like one guy getting a phone call and somebody I guess like Dylan wanting to like check out his guitar, like buy a guitar off of him or something like that, and then like, yeah, I guess so. Can we set up an appointment? Are you at your house right now? Yeah. Okay, we'll be there in 5 minutes. And like they were just down the block, waiting, or like there was like that kind of thing. And I think the best one though was There was probably like 5 examples that he was writing about. But long story short, with Snyder, Todd was saying just like I would never meet him, like unless like he came to meet me, kind of deal or something like that. And he had said how like my favorite one was, guy was like in East Nashville, and like on the street and saw a guy who he thought maybe was Bob Dylan, but he couldn't tell if it was him or not. He thought it could be Bob Dylan or it could be a hobo, and like he's just kind of standing on the street there and kind of like just checking the guy out, and it's kind of busy, and he's just kind of like trying to figure out if it is him or not. And the guy bends over and is like messing with his shoes and tying them and stuff like that, and he finally finishes what he does and starts walking that guy's way and just says, "It's me," and like keeps on going. Dylan encounters, I guess. I don't know.
I told you earlier how James McMurtry has been such an important mentor and friend and advocate for my music since I was 18. And it's weird because he's such. Most people view James as a weirdo. Like they can't talk to him. He's unapproachable. And I can see how that happens because he's, to be an entertainer you're supposed to be an extrovert, and he's very just smart. And if you get along with him, you're in good. But if not, keep the fuck away.
Right.
It's funny. Todd is a different story. He's, I had opened for him many times in my band, the Dead Ringers, that I had for years. And when we split up, he, within a month, he hired me to open a long tour for him. And this is odd to remember this, but we were going from like Denver, even west of Denver. We were going from like mountain towns in western Colorado all the way to Chicago. And it was like a 3-week tour, and I was just supposed to be opening for him acoustic. And, he played just solo acoustic. My friend Savannah Welsh, she came with me to sing harmony vocals on a few songs, and we would just ride together. But I almost got kicked off the tour on the second day. And it was like I never saw it coming. It just happened to be this random thing, and I think you bringing up Todd saying his idols did not take it easy on him. I think he kind of, felt the same way. He had said, "Well, your band just broke up. I'll produce a record for you. You come open a tour for me, and we'll see what happens." And the first night in the green room, I had told him, I just did some demos in Austin or whatever, but that's nothing. And he took that as meaning I didn't want to record with him. And I said, "Well, why the fuck are you on this tour?" And by the next day, his manager was calling my manager at the time, and it was actually very hurtful at the time because I'd heard Todd Snyder's music since his first album came out. Like, my brother brought it home. My older brother brought that first Songs from the Daily Planet. I remember riding around with him, listening to Seattle grunge rock blues and all that, and seeing him when I was very young at Green Hall. And then years later, I again opening for McMurtry. I happened to be in New Hampshire, and there's like 2 Americana venues in New Hampshire. It's like happened to be one where I had opened for McMurtry that night, and Todd Snyder was playing the next night, and I happened to show up to this Holiday Inn Express that I had just got the last room at or something like that, and I saw this rental. It looked like a rental car. It was like a Crown Vic or something, and it was all. As I pulled into the last open spot in this Holiday Inn Express in my van. I saw got out of the car and took my guitar out. And, looks like these people are smogging this Crown Vic yet. All right, I'll give them a wave. And somebody rolls down the window, and it's his old road manager, Elvis. He's like, "What the fuck are you doing here?" Get in. And I'm like, oh, God, And he was playing, like I said, the same venue that I had just come from the next night. And he said, "You show up and, come up and sing with me." And so we got up and we did that song, "Enjoy Yourself," that one. And, but anyway, I still keep in touch with him. I've talked to him over email a whole lot. Todd Snyder coincidentally checks his email at like 4 in the morning every morning. So you can imagine the responses you get.
Yeah.
But it's amazing the difference, because like I both respect them so much. The people who are guys that are in that generation far above me. They learn from guys like John Prine and Jeff Walker and people like that. And McMurtry, like I said, is somebody who I'll go meet for a beer 2 days from now in Lockhart. Todd is still, he likes being the weirdo genius. He's unapproachable, even though most people are scared of James.
Yeah.
It's an odd dichotomy, I guess, when you're talking about people like that.
It's what's strange too is like I always think about like the parallel of you meeting these people that are your heroes, and for me, like on the journalism side, like I can't really think of anybody other than like Hunter S. Thompson or something. It'd be like that's would be the equivalent, you know what I mean? And like I always try to keep that perspective of like, just imagine like trying to like meet Hunter S. Thompson and tell him that you're a writer, you know what I mean? Like
exactly.
And or like I feel like he's definitely like an example of it being crazy, but the other people would be more I don't know, sometimes it's probably a little bit more boring than you'd expect.
Right.
You know what I mean? Especially like coming from a journalism side, like some of my favorite writers are like Chuck Klosterman. Have you checked out any of his?
I love Chuck Klosterman. I always, what was the book he got famous for? I started reading it back in like 2000, 2001.
Like the one I remember kind of being the first I
Killing Yourself to Live?
Yeah, no. There's that. Well, there is something like that.
Is that one?
The one I remember being the first one that I came across was the book of essays called Sex, Drugs, and Cocoa Puffs.
Yes, Sex, Drugs, and Cocoa Puffs was the first one I read as well.
Yeah.
And that was pre-9/11 that he put that out, right?
Oh, man, I have no idea, honestly. I just remember.
That was like I think like 98 or 99. So I'd have to check it out.
I just remember it being like a book of essays and it being like, oh, like people you can write about, like you can write like this.
Very
like,
spot on.
Yeah. I've heard like I've heard a few different takes on Klosterman, especially like recent Klosterman stuff.
I haven't read anything in the last 5 years from him. Probably.
He's released a couple books. One of them that I read that I liked was called "But What If We're Wrong," and that's like basically everything that we've taken for granted, or it's like not granted, but like taken as a rule.
Right.
What if like we're wrong about that? And his example, I mean, it's one of those like I can't put it in like a 30-second clip, but like his first example of like this, maybe we're not wrong, but maybe like we're not right.
Yeah.
And his example is like,
it's a hell of a predisposition to set out to write something with, because most people set out and they write, whether it's fiction or nonfiction, with predetermined that whatever they're saying is already right.
Right. Yeah. Like his first example is like about gravity. Where like we think of gravity as, being pulled down, right? But for a long time people thought of it as maybe like, is it something forcing on to us? Is it like what is gravity?
Right.
But maybe like 1,000 years from now, they're going to figure out that gravity's not necessarily pulling us down, but it's some other thing that we just haven't figured out yet. You know what I mean? So what if we're wrong right now and we're just, and there's obviously, he goes into a lot of different things about like, there's like the whole, like, for most, there's no right answer on the whole, what's the greatest rock and roll band. But
Of course.
if you ask most people, the common would be the
Beatles or
Beatles,
Stones.
right?
Yeah.
And like, what if we're wrong on that? What if it's like some band but you
Yeah.
just don't know, you've never heard,
Yeah.
just because they never got popular or
Could be
something.
T-Rex is the greatest. I don't
Yeah.
know. There's a valid argument behind it that you could make, that
Yeah.
I could make, but I'm not going to make it. I just
Right.
don't have the time or the energy.
Yeah. It's crazy how much like energy you had for answers like, or for questions like that at 18, at 16, you know what I mean? Like, and like now it's just like, a lot of times I'll just hear people arguing about that and I go, okay.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, like, I don't care really at the end of the day what you think the best is or whatever, but
So I've been reading Timothy Leary's autobiography, which is called, surprisingly, Flashbacks.
Flashbacks.
And yeah, it was actually given to me by James McMurtry because his dad went to college with Timothy Leary,
Okay.
or they, both were at Harvard at the same time, or some shit like that.
Yeah.
And it's personally addressed from Timothy Leary. So he kind of said, "Yeah, I don't really read, but here, read this." And it just kind of feels like a personal indoctrination of that taking psychedelics is the best thing that you can do for yourself, and I don't need any more indoctrination that that's good for me. I already like it myself, I don't need anybody else giving the propaganda. Yeah, I always keep a copy of Joseph Campbell's The Hero with a Thousand Faces on my nightstand or wherever,
Yeah.
that I've been closest to, and so I got that I'm rereading again for the 19th or 20th time, underlining all the things that make the most sense to me.
Yeah. I always end up buying Cormac McCarthy books and like just having that as like I know you don't have a copy of this, and
Give it away.
And giving it to whoever,
I mean, Blood Meridian obviously is just well, I try not to read that too much, even though I've read it enough times.
Yeah.
Just because it gives me fucking
Well,
nightmares.
what I usually what I'll read over is, I still read All the Pretty Horses.
Yeah.
And like
the Border Trilogy
yeah.
is great.
And to me, like the perfect is still No Country. I know Blood Meridian is like the epic and it's the best, but like to read over, I can do, No Country. I've only read like The Road once because I thought it was like I couldn't read it more than once. I read it like in a day and it was just like, this is amazing, but fuck, I can't do this.
Yeah, it's draining. I mean, it's not one of those things that's like escapism. It's you're putting in some hours when you read those kind of books.
Yeah.
But I always thought that way about Hemingway and Faulkner.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I guess those get tossed off as two names that are easy for people to name and go, man, you sound smart and brave and whatever if you name those as your favorite authors, but there's truth to that,
Yeah.
It's still my favorite passages written in the English language probably, came from those two authors.
Right. Well, the thing too about them is there's obviously the novels, but there's like just a wealth of short stories and just all kinds of just the same. Thompson's not in the same level, Hunter S. Thompson, but like as far as just there's a
I think for his generation,
there's
he was,
yeah, but like what I guess what I'm saying is like there's a a good selection of books, but like there's also just like letters, and there's a lot of that you can read around
there that you are able to access.
Yeah, and that's what's kind of cool, is like just being able to dive into the short story world of, especially with like Faulkner being like all in the county of the fictional county of. I think I mentioned on another podcast, like I can't pronounce I can pronounce it like if I've heard it like
pronounce the name. Starts with an M. But yeah, it's I don't know. At some point, those people's works make me remember that, man, your head is kind of just living within the small space. There's a jillion writers who are out there who did not get the notoriety that Faulkner or Hemingway got. So why are you rereading the same old stuff? Same thing with all our favorite songwriters. It's easy to get complacent and just go, man, these are the faces on Mount Rushmore that we need to be listening to. But I know I certainly get that way with, hey, these are my favorite people, and I'll keep reading or listening to them. When really, I don't know, the best way to be is just kind of open to what's, it might be your close friend or something who just showed up at the blue light or something, or somebody that you have no idea that would ever think would be that great of a writer who blow your mind, man. And
right. It always kind of like, I think some of the best ones always come out of nowhere, that you just sitting there and you turn around and you're like, well, who is this guy? Or who's this girl? I was going to ask you, have you dabbled in other kinds of writing? Have you ever tried writing short stories or anything like that?
I've always written short stories, but I've never showed them to anybody, and that's recently changed, just because as a way, like I was telling you about the experience of being locked up, I could sit here and I could talk to you about it for 17 hours, and those stories would be filled with great stories, great characters, great whatever. I quickly realized when I got out that most people don't want to hear that, that are, say, like my girlfriend or, my close friends or anything, when you're sitting around just hanging out. But it was something I needed to get past. So that's kind of the first time I've dealt with writing where, like, I really needed it. And so I've just got notebooks full now of stories that are written from a fictional point of view. I try to write them from a way that, like, it's not just a personal narrative, but it's stuff that actually happened. And I don't know if I don't know the medium to put that out in.
Right. Yeah, I talked with Evan about the idea of like short stories, because he'd called me one day about, I don't know, probably about a year ago, and we were talking about short stories and Joseph Campbell, and he had mentioned, how like he doesn't know any short story writers, but like that's always what he said, he wanted to write short stories.
Yeah.
But what's the medium for it? Like who, like where are you putting?
I don't know who to send those to. I don't know who to, and I've reached out to a couple of people who are like journalists and authors, but it's, I mean, that's almost like walking into a bar and going, hey, I got these songs.
Right.
What do I do with them?
Yeah. But also like, just even in the sense of, they'd probably, a lot of times they're like, okay, we don't care about your short stories until you write that great novel, or you know what I mean, or like, okay, these are great short stories. How do we turn them into a movie?
Yeah.
And you're thinking, like, I think there's something to, obviously, if you're wanting to make some money, you're wanting stuff to be turned into a movie that, you know what I mean? Or like to a big bestseller book-wise. But like sometimes like short stories are just short stories.
Yeah. Like I said, I just don't have any experience in the medium, but that was definitely the first thing that an author friend brought up when I gave her the, can you look over these 3 stories or whatever that I've written? And it was, well, the way to approach this is to make it into a Netflix show or something like that, which I, again, have no idea on how to do. But, it was, at the very least, I mean, kind of like I was telling you, everything I've been doing musically is, unless it's cathartic to me, unless it's going to be something real that I'm doing. Because like I said, there were, points leading up to my incarceration that I did not feel inspired whatsoever, and it was not fun to go out and play a show. And now it's really just whoever I'm working with. It has to be real, has to be something that I feel in my heart and soul, because hopefully somebody else feels that after that. Hopefully in some way I come out a little less jaded from this situation, whereas I should be feeling much more jaded.
Yeah.
I would like to feel a more innocent kind of way where you go, yeah, man, it's just all about the songs. And that's really is the way I feel.
Right.
Whereas, like, the year before getting locked up, I was just, had great feelings about hating the world and hating this existence. And God damn it, why am I even sticking around here? But I'm glad I'm still here, Made it through the other side. It's, I'm looking forward to seeing what I can do with all these new songs. And like we were talking about, that writing might be, that's another thing. But I don't know. Everybody I've been playing shows with or hanging out with that I'm doing stuff with musically, I've been having a fucking ball doing it all. So,
well, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty happy with that.
Well, I'm looking forward to
a lot of older friends that have been people, 10 years back down the road that I call up, and it's good to be hanging out with those kind of people.
Yeah. Well, that's good to hear. Well, I think we've been running here for a while.
Yeah. I was wondering how long we've been going. I've been having a blast talking to you.
Yeah, so have I.
This is exactly what I'm talking about. It's good to talk to somebody who cares so much about good music and who writes so in-depth and proficiently about it.